Scott Grayson has his Grayson's grades every day after the game, and with one F on his report card. That's a pretty good report card for the Eagles after their win over the Giants last night. Scott, how are you, pal? Did you get any sleep?
I did get some sleep, Pete. I did get some.
Well, I know you got up there in time, which pleases me, and I hope you didn't have any parking issues getting in, which pleases me. One F. Who did you give the F to and why?
I gave it to Dorial Green Beckham. I got, quite frankly, I was just disappointed with his lack of effort, which has been a common theme for him. One pass in particular, I know John knows which one I'm talking about because I reacted negatively at the moment. It was a pass to DGB along the sideline, and he didn't come back to the ball at all. He did not try to make a play on the ball. He waited for it, and as a result, he gave the defensive back enough time to come up and hit him at the point of the ball's arrival, and that broke up the pass. So, it was a very frustrating basically play to watch, and I think it's just been his season in a nutshell. He just has not given that effort. He only ended the game with one catch for 7 yards. Come on, he's got to do better than that, and it's been frustrating, and that's why I gave him an F.
That one catch, though, was a nice little bubble screen, so you got to give him credit for that. But let's talk about the wide receivers in general, specifically Nelson Agholor, because I think he finally showed after a horrible start. He booed out of the building basically pregame. Then he drops the easy slant pass, and we're all rolling our eyes. All of a sudden, he gains some confidence, gets behind the defense, has the 40-yard touchdown catch. He made that really, really nice catch that the officials assumed he dropped. Doug Pederson had to had to have him review the play, and he did catch it, set up Caleb Sturgis's last field goal. And he also had that nice little run. It wasn't for a lot of yards, but he showed just, as I said, a little bit more confidence on that end around. Do you think we finally see some light at the end of the tunnel with Nelson Agholor?
The short answer is no, not really. I'm afraid that it's fool's gold, as you to use a phrase you used before the game with him. I think what we saw. Look, in all credit to Nelson, after he was benched a couple weeks ago, he could have packed up his suitcase, been ready to go, and figured out where his next destination was. He has come out. He has tried. He has tried to make plays. I mean, look, the play he missed on fourth down last week, we all agree Doug Pederson shouldn't have made that call. But even though it was a call to Nelson, while he didn't run it as well as he could have, he didn't just give up and go out of bounds. He was fighting for the first down. On that running play yesterday, he tried along the sideline to get as many yards as he could, and I think he got 5 yards out of it. So it really wasn't a bad play on his part. On the one where he got deep, like you said, John, I mean, at the time, the ball was in the air a long time. A lot of time for him mentally to figure out that he could drop that ball. And he had a lot to think about while it was coming down, and he made the play. I think that's what Nelson is. I think he's going to be a guy who will give you a couple of catches, but he'll also make those very frustrating, head-scratching, want to bang your head against the wall kind of drops that there's no business being made in this league.
Scott Grayson, Grayson's grades. We do it the day after the game. And Carson Wentz, what grade did you give him and why?
I gave Carson the same grade that I gave Nelson, which was a C. I just thought that there were times that I could not believe that Carson Wentz got away from the pressure that was coming his way. He did an outstanding job to avoid some of those hits that looked like he was going to get crushed on, and he got out of there. And the problem, though, and I just hope that in the offseason they can find the kind of receivers that, that Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson have, who they can read the moment that Carson breaks the pocket and they can spread and go upfield or find an open hole in the zone and sit down. If they can do those kind of things and they get the kind of receivers that'll do that, I think Carson can make those throws. In fact, the one to Bryce Treggs, I think would have been complete if Treggs came back to the ball. Same thing that DGB did. He waited for it, and that allowed the defensive back time to get under it and make an interception.
Now, Scott, one of my concerns was, you mentioned the pass to Agholor. It was in the air for a very, very long time. And I don't know if you were listening to the opening segment, but one of the things I questioned was Carson's arm strength when he was extending those plays. His ability to do the extension part was brilliant, but then you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. The ball doesn't die in the air when Aaron throws it to Jordy Nelson. And while I agree with you that Nelson would have came back and made a better effort, at the same time, should we be concerned about Carson Wentz's arm strength?
Well, I would say this, John. I think from what I see out of him, and I'm guessing you agree, I don't think he's throwing the ball as hard as he did at the beginning of the season. And when you mentioned that, and I stopped and thought about it, yeah, I think you're right. I think his arm is getting tired. And I'm looking here on the stat sheet to see how many pass attempts he has for the season, and I'm just not seeing it. But I know it's a lot. That's rushing.
Yeah, he's obviously now. Yesterday he didn't throw it that much. Yeah,
564 attempts this season for a guy who had to go through combines, pro days, training camps, 16 games in a season. He's not used to this, and I wouldn't be surprised if his arm is just starting to find the end of what it's gotten at this season. And you're right. Those throws downfield, they just don't have the zip on them. That look, you saw it, I saw it in the preseason and early on. He was firing some balls at times too hard. We don't see that now.
Scott Grayson with us as we go through Grayson's grades the day after an Eagles win 24-19 over the New York Football Giants. Well, Scott, there's been times where I think I remember one report card where Doug and Jim Schwartz both got Fs. Your grade for Doug Pederson, not as bad or as harsh after this game. What grade did you give him and why?
I gave him a C. I struggled with what to give Doug because ultimately they got a win over a team that was playing for a lot, that was very good. It's going to basically be a playoff team, and it's a good win. But I thought he started out with a great script. I mean, running behind Lane Johnson, and Lane opened up some big holes, but then they went away from it for a while. And then by the time they came back to it, it just wasn't as effective as maybe it could have been if they stuck with it a little longer. I didn't like the idea of running a double reverse and asking your quarterback to block when he just came out of the tunnel from a concussion protocol. That does not seem very smart to me. I thought he did a good job with his challenges. I thought overall he did a good job with the decision-making. I had no problem on the fourth and goal from the inside the one going for it because I think a touchdown there iced the game. So he went to win the game there. I also had no problem with kicking the 41-yard field goal in the fourth quarter. That was after the catch that Nelson had that they had to review. I thought that was a good decision and not to go for it on fourth down there. I did not like how he had the ball, the Giants with 3 timeouts left with 1:54 to go.
Right, and he throws the ball.
I wasn't worried about them.
Yeah.
Right, he throws the ball on third down and allows the Giants to preserve a timeout. That, to me, made it a lot more interesting at the end of the game than maybe it would have been if they didn't have that in their pocket, because then they're exclusively stuck with throwing the ball down the sidelines. And they worked the middle of the field well in that 2-minute drive. But I think those kind of times, Doug, I just think he's trying to reinvent the wheel. He's trying to think he's going to catch them asleep. Well, with this group of receivers, you're not going to catch anybody asleep enough where you're going to convert that play. It was not a wise decision in my mind. And it's another one that, I hope he learns from going into the offseason into next year.
I lobbied Scott at the game to add a new category so he could give Eli Manning an F. That's what the Eagles had in their corner. But I want to shift to the defense, and I want to talk about Malcolm Jenkins because I think Malcolm had a tremendous game as a safety, but he wasn't very good when he went down into the slot in the nickel. And I was wondering if you thought the Eagles should stop that and just keep Malcolm at his best position and sort of let Jalen Mills or Leotis go inside or just keep all 3 corners on the field and stop bringing in a safety and putting Malcolm Jenkins down in the slot in the nickel defense.
I don't mind when he comes down there, particularly in run support. He does a really good job when he comes down up to the line of scrimmage. But you're right, in the slot, trying to get that. I mean, Sterling Shepard just abused him at the line of scrimmage, and that's where he got the touchdown against Malcolm. I think Malcolm's at his best when he's able to freestyle a little bit. You saw it. He watched Eli's eyes, and Eli started telegraphing where he was going with the ball, and Malcolm picked it up. To his credit, he found it. And unlike last year when Malcolm dropped how many interceptions, to his credit, he made the plays. And not only did he pick off the one, he returned it for a touchdown. Huge momentum swing at that point. I mean, it was already 7-0, but that really put the Giants in a 14-0 hole, and you can't underestimate that. I think he is at his best when he can sit back there as a safety, and they've got to find a guy to be the nickel, and maybe it is Jalen Mills. He's for a rookie, he's done a really nice job this year. He certainly has his moments that make you scratch your head, but I think if they can keep Malcolm back and they find somebody that they're confident in to play the nickel well, then you can do that with Malcolm. And he's such a leader on that defense, particularly on the back end, and made some huge plays last night, no doubt.
Of course, news comes out today that Jalen Watkins in the concussion protocol, so an impact in the secondary and its safety in that as well. Scott Grayson with us for Grayson's Grades, as he is each week following an Eagles game. This time it's an Eagles victory, 24-19. The Eagles beat the Giants at home last night, prevent the G-Men from clinching a playoff spot. They end a 5-game losing streak, and the Eagles finally pick up a win in the NFC East. If you want to read the rest of Grayson's Grades, you can go onto our website, 973ESPN.com. Scott, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and thank you for all your contributions this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Pete. Merry Christmas to all you guys. Hope you guys have a good holiday, and I will see you next week.